Chad Ashley. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you doing?
Oh man, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I'm ready. I got to see Chad Ashley in person last week. You know, it's a little extra little jump in my step when that happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it was so surreal. We had everybody out here to the studio, and I'm still coming down from it. It's like so many. It's like the social. Oh my God, a lot of people. It was wild.
So, Chad in Illinois, in kind of what we call the official Greyscalegorilla studio, um, is usually there with like 4 or 5, maybe tops people, and you know some of the locals show up and work for it. We're a remote company, you know, we don't have a central office, but at least once a year we try to get everybody together in person and at least meet and see everybody. And last week we were able to do that for a few days. We had I think the total was 19 people, which blows me away. It's
God, dude,
amazing.
that's crazy.
In your office, and we had the Greyscalegorilla like conference, let's call it, like internal team conference. So we could talk about that more later. It was always good to hang out with Chad and the team and everybody. But let's fill everybody in on what the heck we're doing today before we get into some details. Thank you all for coming. First of all, whether you're watching here on Twitter, which we're trying, let me know if you're here from Twitter, because this is new to us, streaming live on Twitter. We're also streaming to Twitch. Hello to Twitch out there. And of course, YouTube, where I know most of you show up. Chat is real. That is correct.
I didn't know we were on Twitter. That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a new setting. So let us know if you're here from Twitter. We'd love to see it. And hello, look, we got Germany in the house. We got Sweden. We got Texas. Yo, Texas. Where we got Montreal. Hello. Good to see you. Thank you all for coming. And if you haven't been to a Greyscalegorilla live show, here's what we do. We fill you in with a bit of Greyscalegorilla news, what we've been up to. We also answer your questions. So whether you're a Plus member, you have a specific question, if you're looking to be a customer, or if you're just a fan of Greyscalegorilla, you're here to ask us a specific question. We're here to do that. And so at a certain point, we're going to say, yo, give me a question. So get your questions ready out there. We wouldn't have much to talk about without some questions. So get them ready. We got Florida here. We got Georgia. Hello, Atlanta. Uganda, Utah, Kazakhstan. I love seeing all these different countries all over the world. We got RAM questions. I'm afraid I don't have good RAM answers for you. Get the most you can get, but keep the questions ready here. We got Portland and San Francisco, Istanbul. Thank you all so much for joining us. So here's what we have planned. We got Q&A. Get that ready. We're going to give you a little bit of update of what we've been up to. We also just launched one of our largest collections of new assets inside of Greyscalegorilla Plus. We're going to show you a little behind the scenes on how we've created some of these and why we've created this stuff for you guys, for artists that do 3D for a living. That's what we've been here doing for, gosh, I used to say over 10 years, but it's way over 10 years now. Since 2009, we've been helping 3D artists do their best work faster, and create beautiful renders. It's what we do here at Greyscalegorilla. And we just added over 500 new assets into the library. And we're going to go through some of those and show you some of the behind the scenes and answer your questions about it as well. We got Seattle here, Italy here, Denmark. All right, so I got my to-do list. Chad, what else on your mind?
No, nothing really. I mean, I just love seeing all these people from everywhere. We got Brooklyn in the house. We've got like so many people from all over, which is fantastic. And I don't know if people know this, but like Greyscalegorilla is kind of like a international company, so it's cool to see like all these different people from all over the world.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. People flew into Chicago. Well, I think the furthest was probably New Zealand. That's for sure. We had quite a few Canadians come down, and there's probably another country I'm missing, but yeah, it's all over the place. It's pretty
The Canadians are taking over.
Watch out.
If we start like showing up to the live stream with like what do they call those people on the horses, the Mounties.
Oh, the Mounties.
If we like have a Mountie hat, or we start like talking about hockey and start saying a boot, then you just like send help.
Okay, yeah. You'll know when it's happening. All right, we got Ukraine here. Oh, amazing. We're going to talk about Ukraine also in a little while. Thank you for joining us. Let's see here. I bought. This is great. All right, let's just answer this one. Shane from YouTube here has got a question. Says, I bought Plus a year ago, but let me see. I think I can actually click it. Is this how this works? Yeah, it works.
Here you go.
So I bought Plus a year ago, but I still don't know what it is. Give me a 25 word or less explanation, please. First of all, I hope our onboarding emails are getting to you.
Yeah.
Because that'll run you through. But I understand. I wanted to click this because Greyscalegorilla Plus is a lot. And it's kind of changed too over the years. And it's hard to break down into 25 questions. But here's really at the top level of it. Greyscalegorilla Plus is every tool and every plugin and everything and every material and every HDRI and every 3D asset that we've made that you get instant access to as a Greyscalegorilla Plus customer that helps you work faster and make your best work. So anywhere from materials that you could drag and drop directly into Redshift, Arnold, and Octane, from HDRIs that give you over 500 different lighting scenarios that you can literally click and see in your scene in real time using HDRI Link, which is one of our plugins, all the way to Signal, which is one of our most used plugins that helps you animate if you do MoGraph, all the way to Gobos and models now. In the last year, we've added hundreds of models to your account. So if you're a busy 3D artist doing motion design, architectural visualization, product viz, broadcast design, we've created a set of tools that help you do those jobs, do them at high quality with high quality assets, and help give you plugins and little workflow tools to speed up the whole process. Now that was more than 25 words, but
yeah,
I
dude,
think
that
I
was
did it
way over. Let me sum it up.
Oh, Chad, give me 25.
I'm gonna give you less than 25. I'm gonna try. So like here's what I love about it. If you have Greyscalegorilla Plus, you're gonna seem like you have an army of artists working with you, but it's just you. We empower you to make it look and feel like you've got this art directors making materials and HDRIs, and we supercharge all of that to make that much faster and easier so that you can do more, get more jobs, do more work, all that jazz. I think maybe I can't remember. I don't know if I made it in the 25. I was close.
It was definitely shorter than mine. I'll tell you that.
There you go. I mean, I think people will probably explain it better than our customers can explain it way better than we can.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, well, let us know in the comments. Does anybody have 25 words or less? You could put a comment there. That actually helps us. And it actually helps so much more when our own customers say it, and it's not just us, because we have thousands of artists all over the world using this to build a career and extend their career and get more done in the 3D industry. And so we'd love to hear from you guys too. And I know many of you are already customers out there, and many of you are looking into it as well, and kind of wondering these and having these questions. So all this stuff helps. We may have some more questions. Let me see here. We're definitely filling up your hard drive, that's for sure, full of stuff. And I like the way that you put it, Chad. It's as if you have an army of people making beautiful materials, beautiful models, and beautiful tools to help speed up your workflow, but you're not paying all the salaries. You're just getting the results.
We try to make you look good. Is really what we're getting at.
Yeah, that's right. The Swiss Army knife of 3D, Nick V. Thank you, buddy. Nick was there as well. It's good to see you in Chicago. And let's see here. 3D animation of rendering jet fuel. I'm gonna click on that one.
I like that one. I like that. Just have people write our taglines.
Ellie's got a great one. It's where to find the Creative Office HDRI.
All right, Ellie. You may have the winner right there.
You know, all the hard work and all the effort that Chad and the team put into creating all of these new materials and the new leather collection where we'll talk about later, and all of this stuff. It's really all about that creative office HDRI, you know, at the end of the day.
We've just been trying to top that for however long. I think I shot that HDRI in like 2015 or something.
This is how Radiohead feels. They're like play creep.
Yeah, is creative office our creep? Is that what you're saying? We'll just never live it down.
They're like, we've been making banger albums, guys, for like 20 years. Can we get off
like
of it?
OK Computer. We had like all these other ones.
That's amazing. Greyscalegorilla is a glitter bomb. I like that one. That was fun.
There's a question I don't want to lose because there was a reference to Ice Cube, the rapper, or something. I saw that go. I saw that go by. I don't know what it was, but that caught my eye.
I could try to find it. Thank you for the questions, by the way. It does help if you. I do see it. So Chad, why don't you ask that question and answer it? Since it's a little teeny on my screen, but go ahead.
Oh, I thought it was gonna be about Ice Cube, the rapper. Okay.
Well, I mean, he says it right there, not the rapper.
Not the rapper.
But you can give me your opinion on Ice Cube, the rapper, too.
First of all, Ice Cube
in there.
Dude, I bought his first solo album, America's Most Wanted. I'm just saying, OG fan. But I would say, so I've done a lot of different types of ice throughout my career, and typically what I find, here's a hack to making great ice. First of all, I think it's important to understand that ice is volumetric, right? So you're gonna need stuff inside of your ice for it to look like ice, or otherwise just gonna look like a block of glass. The other thing to remember is that because it's water and it most likely is hitting the temperature of the air, it is going to be glossy like water, the outside surface. So don't make it, you know, if you want to make it frosty, it's going to feel like dry ice and that's going to look weird. So try to keep that in mind. But here's the thing that I've done that I think it's going to be hard to tell over just like talking about it. But so what I've done in the past is I'll take a bunch of planes and I'll put some noise on them, right? It's a bunch of planes that have like random fractal noise on them. And I might make like 3 or 4 or 5 of them and kind of rotate them randomly. And then I'll put them right in my ice cube, like kind of like cutting through the ice cube. And then I make those planes only visible in refraction. That's the key. Make those planes only visible in refraction, and then just put a little bit of like a Fresnel on them. So it kind of looks like, you've ever seen ice, Nick, where like maybe you're like plopping a drink in and it like cracks, or maybe it's got some volumetric like little shards inside of the ice. Yep. And those planes will kind of like emulate that. On top of that, you're going to want a crap load of bubbles at different varying sizes. Make sure you're following the proper laws of dielectrics to make sure that they're refracting properly. You do that, a little bit of fog in there, and I think you're on your way to a nice ice cube.
Yeah, we Chad was showing me, I think we actually made the tutorial about it using some of the frost maps. Now, this isn't quite the ice cube that you're talking about, but I think some of the similar processes are in this frost map tutorial. It might be less than a month old on YouTube if you go find it, or maybe we can get a link in the chat there. Some of those principles are in that, especially that last scene I show you is a render from Chad that's like it's like a frosty beer can. But other than the inside bubbles and the other stuff that he just mentioned, a lot of those principles are in that. So if you want to dig a little deeper, go check out that video and check out the frost maps as well, which get you like halfway there with some of the ice cube effects. All right, we got some other questions here. Got this pinned messages. Let's try this. So we have a question about RAM that Dan's been asking. Sorry, it's a little small on my screen, so you get big head Nick here. I have 128 gigs of RAM. Do I need more to get these effects? What's your recommendation on people making machines now on for RAM?
I mean, so I'll tell you what we have here at the studio, mostly 128 gigs of RAM. And, like, it kind of depends on the work that you're doing. I've found that 128 sort of is like a good sweet spot. We haven't needed to upgrade, I don't think, ever. But again, if you're like, trying to hold a giant cache in your RAM, then you might look at more RAM. But I think 128 should be fine. There's for a long time I was doing 64 because I was cheap, and I was fine then too. But like I do think 128 is a safer bet.
Yeah, it depends on the complexity too of your scene, what you're loading up, obviously. But yeah, 128 should be good. Here's another question we got. It says, anyone on the Greyscalegorilla team have any experience running Octane on M2? So I don't think anybody has the new M2 stuff since it was just announced, but I can just give you my impressions on having an M1 chip in my laptop and in my Mac Studio here. Octane runs great on the new chips. And so if it scales, I don't think it's quite like a doubling with the M2. I think it's something closer with GPU performance, like 30 or 40% faster than the M1. But I'll tell you, as using the M1 chip with Octane, it's fast. Like it is usable as a look dev. Using it on your machine, I gave Chad a demo. I think maybe in Vegas or something on my laptop, showed him it working. I think it's really usable. Whether or not you want to use a laptop or just one M1 chip to render everything, I don't know. Maybe you want to use a farm or go do something more traditional or look into like render. If you're using Octane, you could go use their render network. But I've had pretty good luck with it. I've used Redshift as well. That's been fine. And so I think within a couple years here, we're going to start to get chips that will compete. Now, I think it'll always be a little behind what NVIDIA's up to, because NVIDIA's just got all the power in the world. It could suck in more
They get all the money in the world.
They got all the money in the world. I think they're always at this bleeding edge of speed. So if you always want that, I think for at least the immediate near future, it's going to be an NVIDIA card. But if you're in the Mac world and you love it like I do and you want to experiment with it, I think it's definitely usable for look dev and creating scenes and creating final looks. It's just not up to speed with like final render. So maybe I should finally do a video about it. Chad, what have you seen?
Well, it's kind of related to this, but I forgot to tell you this. As of so we just upgraded our internet here at the studio. I mean, upgraded by American standards, which I understand. Like a lot of foreign countries, they have like way better internet than us, but we have 500 up and 500 down. So the reason I'm saying that is because I actually tried your workflow of using my MacBook Air and parsecing into my Puget PC, and it's really good, dude. Like I've been working on it. I've been working on it like all yesterday. What's today? Is today Tuesday or Wednesday? I don't even know. I've been doing it all week. And I gotta say,
it's Tuesday.
Yeah, it's Tuesday. I've been doing it all of one day,
all week.
And I'm like really like stoked because before when we didn't have the 500 up, I would like, the grid in Cinema would like pixelate out or would just go away completely. I couldn't really play and all that sort of thing. And now, dude, like I feel like honestly, I'm ready to almost like, well, let me it's me here. So I know myself well enough to know that I'm probably gonna like flip-flop. But I'm gonna keep trying it the rest of the week. I was even gonna try it here live, like I was gonna do what you do, but I didn't want to risk it because I thought maybe it would like break or something and then it would all go to hell. But I'm gonna try it the rest of the week and see how it goes. But right now I'm like super stoked because I do, just for those of you out there, like I use my MacBook Air for like all my like Slack and Figma and all that stuff. I'm doing all on my Mac, and I when I get to work, I would switch it over to the PC. So I'm trying this out. I really like it so far.
Yeah, so if you guys don't know, type in parsec Greyscalegorilla. I've got a quick video about it from maybe 2 years ago now. I started doing this in pandemic kind of era where I was at my home office trying to dial in here and use this PC that's in the other room. And it is so good now. If you're a Mac fan and love the workflow of Mac stuff for email and browsing and or whatever else you're doing, but you still want the power of a PC. You have a Puget machine or something, and you don't necessarily need all that power to write an email. For me, at least, it's a perfect blend of both worlds. So let me actually just share my screen. I'll show you, and it actually feeds into the next question. So let me just quickly show you guys what the heck we're talking about, because I find it hugely helpful. So here's my Mac, right? You can see the little Apple up here. I'm here on my Mac Studio, and then I'm using parsec, and I literally swipe over. I'm doing like a 3-finger swipe over, and I'm in my PC, and I am in essentially a real-time PC world, and I get all the benefits of my PC without any of the noise, and still or any of the heat or anything else, because of these powerful machines that we need. I can put it in another room. I can put it in another literal. All through pandemic, it was miles away from where I lived. And if I want to go back to my comfy little Mac world, I just swipe back over and I'm here. So if that's interesting to you guys, it's kind of an old video, but check it out. I know many of you have been asking about it, talking about, can I get the best of both worlds, get all the power of these NVIDIA cards, but still, use my Mac for most stuff. So
I will say though that you really do need that. It's the upload speeds that are more important than the download speeds with parsec, because it's basically trying to stream a 4K display out to the internet. So I recommend like making sure you got like decent upload, and try to be hardwired if you can. Like I'm Ethernet on both computers, and that really helps things a ton.
Yep, was just going to mention that. Hardwire as much as possible for both machines, but definitely hardwire the PC side of things.
Yeah,
because that's where all the streaming is going out of. Okay, so this leads me to the next question, and half of these images are a part of this question, so I just wanted to show you this. It says, how do you light a broadcast scene like the teaser in your launch? So I actually want to show you, we're actually going to go through this launch teaser and talk a little bit more about all the new stuff. But what they're asking about are these, that's on the screen right now, this motion design logo, these broadcast logos. I'm assuming is what you mean. How do you light for something like this? We'll talk about the tennis shoe later, but we'll wait till it wraps around. In fact, let me just scroll down. I'm going to refresh this page just so we can do this. We're talking about this stuff here. Now, this is one of my like early jobs, and also like early loves, like broadcast, metal, 3D motion design, motion graphics. Like this is part of why I fell in love with Cinema 4D, because doing this stuff was so much fun, so intuitive, and it had all the MoGraph, it had all the text tools, and those just got better. And then they added kerning. So I love this stuff. And I've definitely got some thoughts, but I know you do too, Chad. When it comes to these types of renders, this broadcast design, what are you thinking about when you're lighting stuff like this?
Well, yeah, I agree. Like this has sort of been part of our DNA from back when we worked at Digital Kitchen in Chicago. It's like we not necessarily like broadcast like real-time stuff, but we would pitch on this stuff all the time. We did show opens and things like that. So this has also been like a part of my love in motion design as well. And in fact, like I think subconsciously or maybe consciously, we've been building assets into Plus that sort of work with this type of stuff. So we have like HDRIs that I'll talk about in a second that are built to make that stuff look great. We have Signal, which makes that stuff, animating that stuff a lot easier. But really, we didn't have a set of like materials that were like dedicated to those kinds of looks, like the brushed metal, a cleaner looking gold and metal and whatnot. Maybe some interesting patterns too, because that's always a big part of these types of looks. So we kind of like thought about all these different things, and then how all of it can like fit together in Plus. So I would say that, it all, getting back to the lighting, there's so much more to it than that. But if I had to break it down, lighting this type of stuff isn't actually, it's not really lighting, right? Because it's a reflective surface. Most of it is completely reflective. And these great renders by an artist by the name of Slava did all these renders for us, and he's fantastic. We'll talk about him a little later. But you're really lighting through reflection. So you're lighting through things that are reflecting in that metal or in that glass or in those surfaces. So you're really kind of crafting that stuff based on what's showing up in the environment or maybe what's on a light. And we built HDRIs that are exactly for this type of stuff. So we have what's called Pro Studios Metal. We have 2 sets of Pro Studios Metal HDRI packs that are in Plus that are reflective lights and little pings and little, gradients and things like that will get you at least 85 to 90% there to what you see here in these renders. And then it's just a matter of making a few quad lights or area lights with a couple of area light maps textures on there and rotating them into place to make that highlight ping, or maybe you want something to like crawl across the front or something like that. But really, you're just crafting it through reflection, which is why HDRI Link and area light maps and all these Pro Studios Metal HDRIs make this stuff, like, I can't stress this enough. It's really, I don't want to say it's easy, because obviously it takes a lot of skill to do what Slava did here in terms of layout, design, camera angle, all that stuff. But we do try to make it a more fun and iterative process with all these different assets to help you get there faster.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's all reflections, and the metals one is perfect. Those metal collections are the go-to. There's some original studios that work pretty good too, but the metals in particular, they have those gradients and all that. Sorry, go ahead.
Maybe if you show them in the catalog, that might be good for people to see, even the online catalog.
Yeah, so let me replace this with like a metal, and I could do the online catalog too, but I just want to show you guys where to set all this stuff up. Let's go to HDRIs, and let's go to Pro Studios Metal. So you could even see it in the HDRIs when you're scrolling through. Reflective objects are all about gradients. And sometimes it's really about contrast, right? The difference between where things are lit and where things are not lit. And the more you can accentuate those gradients and contrast, the more that metal looks great. So you could quickly set this up. I'm using this default scene file, by the way. If you haven't signed up for this, it's completely free. We'll probably get a link. I saw Deirdre in the links there. Thank you, by the way, Deirdre, for getting all these links out. She'll put a link here to sign up for this. We have it for Redshift, Octane, and Arnold, these default scene files that we've been using a ton. And I know a lot of artists have been downloading these and using these. So in the default scene file, if you're a Plus member, you can actually just go to your object and drag it into Drop Zone. Now you have access to all of our HDRIs just by clicking on them. And if I just click on any of these, you can see that we get incredible looking metal. Like before, that was just like a regular HDRI, like a indoor HDRI that looked fine. But now it's starting to look like metal. And metal has unique properties where, just like Chad said, it's really not a diffused object. It's all about reflections. It's only going to show you reflections. So dialing in those reflections just right is where you want to go. Now that one's too front on. I could rotate that one, but I'm lazy. I just want to click and get beautiful stuff, so I will. I love this one. And Pro Studios Metal 2 is even more of these gradients. Look at these, like these little hits of light all over the place that really accentuate reflective objects. So again, just by clicking on it, you'll see it. I love this one. You'll see it in the scene. I'll click on one more. And then Chad was also mentioning our online library. And this is something many of you might not know about. If you go to Greyscalegorilla and you click right here, Browse Library, we now have an online library that shows you what's new if you're a Plus member and you just want to see like what's the new stuff. And maybe you haven't downloaded it yet. Maybe you don't know if you want to download it. You want to see it first. You can come here and literally click on any of these new things, see the material. And if you move over, you'll see a high res version of it and even some of the maps that are included. So this is all here. This is all live. If you want to do this at any point, this includes all of the assets, all the materials. And of course, you could search So I could actually go on to HDRIs and just click on Area Light Maps Volume 2, and you'll see a little preview of what they're made for. But then there's oh, I'm sorry, we're in Area Light Maps. I always get those confused. So Pro Studios Metal version 1, and then Pro Studios Metal version 2. And then if you want to come down, you can actually see not just the object, but also what it looks like on like a diffuse sphere and something more reflective. So you can really get a look at what you're trying to dial in. If you don't have this stuff installed, or if you're just wondering what's all included in Plus, this is a great place to go. And you can go there direct, 3dassets.grayscalegorilla.com, or you could just, it's in the navigation bar. You can go to the website and see all this. So there we go. Anything else before I jump to the next question there, Chad?
Yeah, Pro Studios Metal Volume 2 is a broadcast design. It's really like perfect for that stuff. So the second one that has like more of the subtle gradient splotches and whatnot, if you have like a logo that maybe has a little bit of a curve to it so that the light kind of has somewhere to go, I highly recommend just like tossing in an HDRI link and just boom, 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 try out a bunch to see which one works and rotate it around to get what you want. Yeah, it's kind of addictive, really. And I handmade each one of these specifically with that sort of work in mind.
Yeah, there's like dozens of these in here, and of course you could just click around. But if you're using HDRI link and you're like inside of any of the HDRIs, you could just come rotate it and dial it in exactly the way you want. So obviously a sphere is kind of, you see it all at the same time, but maybe we'll do this with a logo in a future video. But yeah, that's the short answer. Hopefully that helps. I'll scroll back here. I'll leave the spheres up. I like looking at these things. Okay, so we did have another question. Let me click through here. Thank you for the question, by the way. Let's see here. Let's see. Hussein, hope I get your name right, has a question. GSG stuff used to be available for non-Cinema 4D users before. Can those assets be used if I don't use Cinema 4D? So to the first part, I don't think we ever really had a great way to use any of our assets in other places. Before Greyscalegorilla Plus and before the hub, we had like some zip files and stuff like that. But the main answer to this is we are hearing more and more of this from our customers. And we're also seeing this in the market, that using one piece of software just used to be what everyone did. Everyone was like, I'm going to get one 3D package, and because they're all so expensive, you know, now I'm dating myself, but they're all so expensive, I have to do all of it right here in this app. And now we live in this world where you could jump between different apps, and people are playing around with Unreal and Blender and Substance. They're just jumping between all this stuff, and they want to bring their favorite assets and their favorite materials into all of them. And right now, we don't have a super great answer. We have like you download them in Cinema, and they're created specifically for Cinema 4D and for Arnold and for Octane and for Redshift. But beyond that, it just gets a little tricky. But we are listening to you, and we're working out ways to make this happen more. So we love hearing stuff like this because it helps make sure that we're on the right track and that we're doing what's right for our customers, which we already hear every day. Like, we use more than Cinema 4D. How can we use this stuff? So I just want to put this up there to like remind everybody, we listen to your feedback, and we're really working actively on this issue right here. Anything else you want to add, Chad?
Not without getting in trouble.
Good answer. Good answer. All right. We have more to talk about with this in the near future, I hope. Eric, good to see you, Eric. How you been, man? Eric's got a question. He says, can you guys make a project template loader plugin that allows you to pick from a list of template projects when you start up Cinema 4D? So we don't really have that in the works. I think it's a really cool idea. The closest we have is this, is right here. So we built this starter scene file, and Chad and his team actually really put a lot of work into this starter scene file. to start to go down this road of how do we start not from scratch in 3D, and how do we open up a scene that has some really good best practices and default render settings and a few lights and a few materials ready to go, rather than try to start from scratch all the time if you just open up a blank Cinema 4D scene. Now, this one is one that I've even customized a little bit more. I brought some of my favorite color palettes in here just so I can drag on my, I'm still debating what my favorite orange is, but you know, if I'm feeling more red orange, I could literally drag it on and I'm ready to go. So not only do we encourage you guys to set up your own default scenes, but we also gave these away for free. I think Deirdre just put the link there. This is kind of the start to this question, Eric. I've been using these for years so I don't have to turn on Redshift and add HDRI and put a basic object in to start an idea, so that I could start with some things to play with and some basic lighting setup, so I don't have to set all that up when I just want to try an idea out. So this is kind of the short-term answer for now. We don't really have a loader idea coming down the road, but other scene files like this is definitely something on our mind. Chad, you and your team made this. Anything else you want to add about kind of starter scene files? I'm gonna
Yeah,
reset
this is just kind of like a really simple baseline scene. But I think the way that I like to work is like, that's my new .c4d file is a scene very similar to this. And one thing that I kind of got into the habit of doing, I don't necessarily have like specific projects, like templates for specific use cases. I usually start with that like sort of like baseline, somewhat generic, but can go anywhere kind of project. And then I want to do a video on this someday, but maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. I made a really simple Python script that merges in anything from a specific scene. So like what I like to do is if I have a light setup that I really, really like, I'll save that to my server and I'll name it, whatever. And then I have this little Python script. It's only like 10 lines or something. And I just replace the path with the path to whatever it is that I want to, like, I know I'm going to use again. And then I just create a button in Cinema 4D that essentially when I click it, it loads that into my active scene. And I try to like be really vigilant about like, okay, I'm going to use this again. I really liked how this looked, or I really liked this thing, or this, whatever lighting setup or object or whatever. And I just try to make sure that I'm really disciplined about adding those things, so that when I'm in a scene file and I'm not sure where it's going to go, I can add those things in with one click. And they're really, really, really useful. And it's actually, I'm not a coder at all. And I basically knew kind of what I wanted to do. And I asked ChatGPT to make it for me, and it got it really close. It got like one thing wrong. And luckily we have like amazing developers here at Greyscalegorilla that I could just ask and be like, hey, I'm trying to do this thing. It's not really working. And they're like, oh yeah, you got to change this to this. And it worked fine. So I'd like to show people that at some point someday if there's time, but I recommend like just hacking shit like that together and just making it so like you're not, once you get something that you like, don't rebuild it again. Like try to save it off somewhere and bring it into your scene. And just try to be really disciplined about it. I know that's hard for a lot of people, including myself.
No, I'm the worst at that, but it's also when I take it seriously and save things that I use a lot, even like a Cinema 4D preset, which they just added a couple years ago. Common things you do, if you this is common in coding, obviously. Anything you do more than once a day, try to make a system around it. Try to make a default or a preset or a scene file, and these things save you so much time. And that's at the core of what we do here. That's like at the core of what Chad and I would always talk about when we were artists together, of like, how do we do better work and speed up our workflow? And it's why it goes into all of these tools that we've created for you guys, so that you don't have, when you need a great material, you don't have to go make it from scratch. You could type in and get over 4,000 assets at your fingertips and drag it on and get back to work, rather than start from scratch every time. And I'm literally doing this while you're talking, Chad. It's what I do when there's a new material collection. I look in the library, which are great. We got high res renders, but I love just like going to one of these new collections, like these soaps, for example. I'm like, what do these soaps look like? And I'll just drag them onto this shader ball. And this is the default light setup. This is the default everything, except for I'm just replacing the material. And then I also have a floor here where I'm like, does this look cool on a floor? Then I could come up here to these carpets and like just drag it on the floor. And now I'm getting like a sense of what all this stuff looks like in context in a renderer rather than, just on a website. So encouraging you guys to do this. If you have the scene file, if you're a Plus member, play around and see what all these are. So next time you need this stuff for a project, you roughly know what it looks like and you remember it's there so you can type it in. Oh yeah, they do have styrofoam. Let me type it in, or cork, or whatever these new ones are. So hugely useful. Thank you for the question. Let's get to another one here.
Hi, Eric. I just realized it was Eric Miro, who is Eric. Awesome dude, and I miss that guy. I have not seen him in person in years.
I know, what a good dude. Hi Eric, loved working with you, man. Let's see here. Same question. So we got Hussein said, we answered that question. Let me close that one. Thank you for that question. Let's go with Julius. Julius says, firstly, I love Grayscale. Let me click on it. Says, got to get close here. Firstly, I love Greyscalegorilla Plus. Secondly, are there any plans to release any cartoon style, Spider-Verse style materials? And you're a Redshift user. Any thoughts about that? Have you seen the new spiders?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the new one yet. I was gonna go on Father's Day, but we couldn't get tickets. It was like pretty much a no way. But I do love the first one. In fact, I think I have a couple of videos where I like emulate some of those techniques, I think in Arnold. Yeah, so it's I love that style. I love how creative. I love how like handmade everything is, and it just has this really sort of like I don't know, it's like this really interesting mix of styles that is just really unique. But to answer your question directly, we can't do toon shading materials because every renderer, number one, not every renderer even supports toon shading, and then number two, they're all so completely different. So like the toon shading in Arnold is completely different than Sketch and Toon is completely different than all the others, right? So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for us to do those types of materials, but we are exploring ways to bring that sort of handmade interesting stuff to our library. And I can't really say exactly too much right now, but it is on our mind, and we are looking at that.
Love it. Got a question here, or more of a comment, just to tie into something we said before. DM says, for the love that all is good, bring your amazing library to Houdini. We are looking into that as well. We love hearing those. We want to know what tools you guys are using. It helps us make these big decisions. And if you're a Houdini user and here on the live show, we want to hear from you. And that goes true. Actually, that'd be great. Anyone here that's using a tool other than Cinema 4D, just put it here in the comments. If you are Cinema, also put that next to it. So just type C4D and Houdini, or Cinema 4D and Unreal. And if you happen to be here and you're only using one of these other tools, let us know too. We love hearing this. It helps us immensely make some of these decisions and figure it out, because this is where I get to brag about Chad and his team. They're not just making the best material collection for Cinema 4D users. They're making the best material collection. If you are a motion designer and broadcast design and product viz, there's really nothing else out there that has the quality, the attention to detail, the attention to colors that go together. All this stuff works in a cohesive way. There's just no other place to go get all this stuff. And so we're recognizing that if you do this work, and you're only in Cinema 4D, well, you're in luck. We're here. You're all set. But for those artists that are jumping around and experimenting and playing all over the place, we're definitely hearing more and more of this. So it might be a good time to just like put your thing that you're using other than Cinema 4D, or if you're combining stuff like a lot of customers, let us know. Let's see here. Seth has given a V-Ray shout out. We love hearing about other renderers you're using as well. Always on our radar. We're always listening and making these decisions and taking it seriously. Let's see here. Deirdre, thank you so much for all the links. That's Deirdre linking to the product catalog. I'm catching up with some of the new questions. Sharon says that default scene is really good. Thank you so much. If you're not a customer, or if you are a customer, it's completely free. Go to our website, go download it, and start using it. I use it all the time now. We've even started using it in some videos to kind of get to the point. Like, let me show you, without starting from scratch. How do you choose the right HDRI? Ashur is asking, how do you choose the right HDRI? So just previously, I showed you essentially like why HDRI link exists. And that's kind of part of the problem we were trying to solve, is how do you choose? And at least for me, the answer is you don't really know sometimes, especially for abstract type stuff, for that kind of work. It's hard to really know what looks great until you try it. And if you're like me, HDRI link is a godsend, because you just literally click on any of them that look like they might work. It loads in your scene and you get to look at it in context. Now, if you're, like Chad said, if you're doing something with more metal and something more reflective, we've actually created HDRIs that are specifically made for different types of renderers. So the metals, for example, is a good example. We also have some new ones. Maybe it's a good time to talk about this. We should jump into some of the new stuff we've launched, Chad, because I have some questions for you. But maybe now's a good time to talk about, first of all, answering this question: how do you choose an HDRI? And also a little bit about the latest HDRI collection, which is the nighttime ones. What are they called? I'll get the name right.
Yeah. So how do I choose an HDRI is pretty. I know that seems like daunting, especially when we have so many in Plus. But really, I'd try to break it down like, okay, where do I think, like, first of all, am I using this for light, or am I using it for reflection, or am I using it for both, right? So that's something to think about there. Like, if you don't necessarily need to worry, like if it's a completely matte scene, like you're using like unfinished wood on an abstract thing, then it reflecting doesn't really make a huge difference. But maybe you want something more directional, or maybe you want something more soft, or maybe you want something that looks outdoors. So I try to think about, like, what's my goal? Like, am I trying to make it look like it's inside? Is it outside? Is it lit by a studio? Is it lit by natural light? Like, what's in my brain? Like, what do I want this to look like? And then just by answering those few questions, it will narrow down like tremendously the different HDRIs you might want to look at. Like, for instance, if you're doing a metallic product or broadcast design, shiny metal, then obviously Pro Studios metal is perfect. If you're doing something that's like what I call in situation, meaning it's lit by an actual real environment, maybe indoors, then Creative Office is my go-to to start there and see what I can get. If I'm trying to do something that looks like it's maybe outdoors, maybe I'm doing a product render of a jet ski and it needs to look like it's in the sun, I'm going to use Ultimate Skies. I'm going to look at some of these other packs that we have that are like more outdoor kind of sun kind of scenarios. And then if I'm doing like a car render, maybe and I don't have a background plate from an actual location, I might use one of our new HDRIs, the night HDRIs. We shot these amazing nighttime HDRIs with all these great like pings of highlights and street lamps and buildings. And then maybe you want that because you want that car paint to really like ping off these like different highlights and stuff. So it's really kind of like you have to sort of like ask yourself those like beginning questions, and then it'll sort of like choose your adventure as to what pack would make sense for you.
I'm trying to keep up. I got some car paint.
I was going fast.
No, that's good. I got some car paint here. We're gonna add it to the share ball, and then I pulled up the night Night Skies is the official name here, and this is what Chad's talking about. All these little reflections that you get with little street lights, because during the day, the sun and the sky really take up a lot of the light energy just because of how bright it is. At night, outdoors, especially in a city where a lot of these were taken, you get like hundreds and hundreds of light sources that are all over the place, and buildings have lights and little street lights, and the cars that drive by have lights, and you get a completely different mood. Not only is it darker, but you can also crank it up, right? Like you have a long exposure, let's say, you can crank up the lights and get all these little details in your car paint. And then if you're using HDRI Link, you could just literally like click through these and get completely different reflections, back plates, everything, because the way that these were shot were so high res. You get both essentially. So you can just click through here.
Yeah, when I say I realize that sometimes I use words that people might not understand, but when I say ping, it just generally means like a single source hot light that's pinging. Like the reflection is like you can almost hear it. It's like a ping, like those little bright highlights.
Yeah, that's it's one of those things motion designers do all the time, which is just animate with sound effects.
Totally.
You want it to go boom, and then it goes ding ding ding, and then it goes.
Oh, dude, that was like almost all of whenever we would like try to figure out how something was going to move, it'd always be like through sound effects, I feel like.
I still do it.
I know.
But ping is like right here in this image, you see all these little dots, and it's just, it's not a big light that's going, it's a little light going bing. It's just bouncing right off the edge, right off the corner.
Yep.
Bing. Maybe one of those. That's a ping. So that's yeah, I think that answers that one. HDRIs, I got nothing really to add because Chad taught me how to pick HDRIs, and I've been just using that logic. And I think the other thing to keep in mind is for your style and for the type of work, you'll start to develop some go-tos. And if you're a longtime Plus member, you might have 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 in the back of your head that are like, all right, I'm going to experiment, play around, but I've seen this type of shot before. It's got a big, heavy left, rim light, and then a bunch of little sparkles in the front. I know the ones to start with. And so you'll start to go to those, and then you'll always have the option like, yeah, that's close, but I want more variations. And this is one of the ones Chad mentioned, which is creative spaces. Literally the creative office HDRI was so popular that Chad and his team created a whole collection that have similar properties. Large windows. You could actually see them down here. Large windows that let in a ton of light, and then a lot of other sparkles and warmer lighting around the rest of it. And to us and the team is like, that's part of the recipe that we think makes that creative office so popular, that we created an entire collection around that. So if we click on one of these, you'll see it might be a little bright. I may have to tone it down because we're in nighttime world. But now we're in creative office world, and we have a completely different look with large light sources and less of those pings and more large areas around that. Actually,
Fun fact, if you choose, oh man, I forget what number it is. I think it's 7.
Mm-hmm.
Is it 7? It's the one right to the left of where your mouse is right now. That one.
The office?
Yeah. Click that one.
Yep.
And for those of you, this is a little inside information. That is actually where I'm sitting right now. Like that's our studio that we made in HDRI. So if I don't know if like you're not gonna be able to see me because I left the room when that was being shot, but you can see. Yeah, okay, so there's my desk. Like that's my monitor.
I see it.
Like if you look behind me, you can see
right
the pegboard.
There.
Yeah, right there.
That's where
I might actually be sitting there. It kind of looks like my head right there. I don't know.
Are you just ducking?
Maybe I'm just holding still, like holding completely still. But anyway,
that's pretty cool. And yeah, so that's a fun one. It's called Creative Space 5. That's the Greyscalegorilla office. So as always, we have more questions than we can answer. So let's move on. Thank you so much. We'll do a few more questions, and then I want to go into the product release video that we just put out. And I have a few questions for you on some of the new stuff that just dropped. There's over 500 new assets, and I've been playing with them. I've been dragging and dropping and using some of them. And I want to ask you, I have some specifics, and I know the audience will too. So get your questions ready for that. Let me scroll down through here just to make sure we get to some more of these questions. All right, let's see here. All right. Vitas says, "Hey, Vitas, good to see you. Always great to see you. Would you use the metal HDRIs to see what you might like in your reflections and then rebuild it with real area lights so that you can tweak the reflections to get better reflections?" So I think that's an interesting way to think about it. If you want full control and you're doing something like a car render, which is a very reflective render, sometimes you do need specific lights in specific areas to light something like a hubcap or the logo on the front of the car, for example. But I would encourage you to actually get the gist of it with an HDRI, and then rather than rebuild it all just to tweak it, use the HDRI as is, and then add an area light with area light maps, which help a lot with this. We didn't talk about that, but area light maps are HDRIs that go on your area lights that give different shapes for lighting, different fall offs, and different reflections based on whether it's a ring light, whether it's a softbox, the same things that real studios think about when they're lighting a product. What shape of light? I would encourage you to use that workflow. Use the HDRI for the general light, and then add your little details with area light maps. Chad, do you have anything to add to that one?
Yeah, I've 100% done what how do you is it Vitas? Vitas?
I think I got that right. I hope I said that right, Vitas.
Sorry if we didn't get that right. I've completely done what you said. Like, I'll find something that I really like, and then I'm like, man, I really just need to like make this one darker, or I need to move it a little bit. So usually what I'll do in those situations is I'll, make a generic sort of like angle, right? Maybe straight on a sphere, make it chrome, add my HDRI that I like, and maybe hopefully it's a studio HDRI because it's not going to help you if it's not. And then I'll just literally, I think you may have seen me do this trick before where I have a null at the center and then I have an area light, and I make that a child of the null so that I can just rotate the null around the object like this, and I just match it, and boom, boom, boom. Maybe it takes like 5 lights or 4 lights or however many it takes, and I match it best I can so that I can control that. And I use area light maps on those lights to kind of match it. Was it a softbox? Was it an octagon or whatever? It's a bit time consuming, but if you do need that like deep control, then that's totally fine. I've done that a bunch of times.
Sweet. I'm just clicking. I'm just clicking on HDRIs in the meantime. All right. Thank you for the question as always. Let's jump through. We'll do 1 or 2 more, and then we'll jump into some of the new stuff. Yeah. Okay. So retro reflectors. So Thomas has a question about retro reflector materials. I'm actually going to ask about those as we go through that video. So Thomas, stay tuned. We're going to talk about retro reflectors soon because I've been having a blast using those. And I know Chad and the team really jumped into what they mean and why they're a part of this. Let's see here. Signal product animation. Can you do more tutorials about signal product animation? I'm trying to think. We definitely have videos around that. So if you're a Plus member, hit up the library. We have signal training. Check out on YouTube as well. One by our buddy Jake Allen, where he shows you some of the basics of signal, how to set it up for product animation. You could also play with transform, which helps do those more like exploding products kind of stuff. I've been using that for that. But yeah, we're always looking for ideas for that. I'm trying to think of a specific one for products.
Hit up, if you're not on our Discord, join the Discord, because I feel like our Discord is really awesome, and we have an amazing person on there, Revo, aka Orchin, who, if you run into a situation with Signal where you're like, how do I get it to do this? Like, he is so rad. Like, he'll like mock it up and send a scene file over there. So like go to our Discord if you haven't joined it. Maybe Deirdre can throw a link to the Discord in there. I highly recommend it because it's like literally like tons of great info, and it's a really great community of people helping each other.
100% agree. If you're not on the Discord and you do this work for a living, it's an amazing community. Everyone's helping each other answer questions. Go join. I'm just clicking on some of these questions here so we can get through them. Thank you, Deirdre. I agree there. Let me see here. Let's see here. Chad, do you have a Redshift course? I like your way in teaching so much. So definitely check out training.greyscalegorilla.com. We have training there. Some of it is from Chad. I know quite a few years ago that Chad did some Redshift stuff.
Quite a few years ago.
The interface might be a little different, but some of the principles, and Chad's always great about this, including principles of why he's teaching and some of the stuff we're talking about today, why to use certain lights. A lot of that stuff still applies. So definitely check that out. We also have killer training for Redshift and Arnold specifically. I already forgot what they asked for. Let me make sure it's one of those in there. So specifically Arnold and Redshift, we got super, I think, pretty up-to-date training there on the latest build. So definitely check that out. Redshift. Sorry, Ashur. I got that one right. All right, let's see here. All right. Why are the materials in the old node system for Redshift? So here's a great question. And here's something that we haven't talked about as a lot as maybe we should have. But now's a great time. So tell your friends, will you? Help us get the word out. Right here, if you are using Redshift or Arnold, I think, correct? Then we have a node system decision right here that you can make. If you want the older Espresso nodes and you're used to that workflow and you want to work in that world, just click the Espresso link. And you are now, every time you drag and drop a new material, it'll be in the old one. And if you want the new nodes, which I prefer, go to node and now when you drag and drop materials, let me just open one of these so you can see, they are in the new system. Hooray. Like, I love it. So you're right. That was missing, but I think maybe about 6 months ago or so, maybe less, this was added. It's ready to go. So if you're using Redshift or Arnold and you're missing these nodes, you are all set. Just click that. Chad, I know you use the new stuff. Anything else you want to add there?
No, I love it. I love the new node system. I think that there's quite a few people that I think maybe haven't given them a chance lately, and I prefer them because I don't go blind trying to like connect them the way that I did with Espresso.
Love it. All right. So let's move into this. So we have a brand new collection. If you're I actually want to get down to where everybody put their comment on what renders or what 3D package you're using. Okay, so here we go. So I'm just going to quickly go through this before we move over into some of the new stuff. So we got Houdini and C4D, Unreal Engine, Houdini only, Houdini, Unreal, and Cinema 4D, Maya and Cinema 4D, Cinema 4D Redshift, Cinema 4D and Houdini, Cinema 4D Houdini, Maya and Cinema 4D, Houdini, then Cinema 4D, then whatever is required. Cinema 4D Unreal, Cinema 4D Octane, plus Greyscalegorilla all day. Thank you. Love that. I'm going to click on that one. Thank you. Let's see here. Ported all my materials into Houdini, which couldn't have been easy, but that's certainly something we've been seeing some of you do. And we want to help solve that issue as well. Cinema 4D Redshift. Substance. We got a shout out for Substance. This stuff is so helpful. Thank you all for doing that, shouting out what you're up to. Deirdre with the links as always. Deirdre's linking up the new Night Skies, and we got a few more here. Houdini, Unreal, and and Mike says I'm an hour late. What's up? That's okay, Mike. We're recording. Good to see you. I'm glad you're here. That's true for all of you. If you made it late, you're good.
I think Mike's all electric image, if I got that right. Kidding, Mike. Kidding.
I love it. Okay, so let's do this. Let's jump into what's on my screen. So if you're a Plus member, this may not be brand. You may already know this, but it was only like a week ago, or maybe two. We just we kind of lied a quarter ago. We said, hey, this is the biggest update ever to Greyscalegorilla Plus, and I guess that was true when we did that. But then this quarter, we broke the record. There's now our largest update to Greyscalegorilla Plus ever was just a couple weeks ago here. June 7th, it says right here on this article. And it's over 500 new 3D assets that just hit the library. And I wanted to show you guys some of the new collections. If you're a Plus member, you have instant access to all of this stuff. Go to your hub and make sure you have the latest version of the hub, and you have instant access to download and use this stuff right away. I already showed you some of it in that scene file. And I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into some of the new stuff, show you a little bit of behind the scenes on how to use some of these new materials, because a lot of them are new ways to think about using materials like the retro reflectors, for example. And I want to pick Chad's brain, and he and the team have done an amazing job in creating such a diverse set of assets, whether you're a motion designer like you see on the screen now, or you do product design. We have a giant set of sustainable materials, which are becoming more and more popular in products. We obviously, well, let's just jump into it. We got the soaps here. Let's just go through the video, and I'll just pause it, Chad, like we did last time, and I'll ask you a few questions. And I'm also going to watch the stream. And so if you have a question, let me scroll down. If you have a question and I'm not getting to it, put it in the chat and I'll ask it as well. So let's do it. Let me go full screen here. Let me get rid of this. So here's where we're talking about what came out last quarter. By the way, if you haven't seen what came out last quarter, here's all the fun stuff. We got the paracord, and we got felt, and the styrofoam. We had a tutorial about that one. That was fun. And now here's all the new stuff. So let's start with, we talked about the HDRI skies. We're going to talk about Happy Toolbox too in a moment. We're kind of doing our showing you all of it. But let's now talk about this. This is the new broadcast design collections. And there's quite a few of them. And I want to talk about a few of my favorites. So this one right here, I want to make sure I get the names right. So I'm just going to literally scroll over. And we have embossed plastic, embossed metals, which I think, and these are the embossed ones, correct? These are the ones with the holes in them.
No, you need the perforated is what you want.
Perforated. I always get them backwards. See, so perforated have the holes in them. Let me go find those. So there's perforated metals and perforated plastics. So tell me about these. I know I've used the heck out of these in the past when I did, sports graphics, but like motion design, broadcast design. Talk a little bit about how you and the team thought through making some of these patterns.
Yeah. So basically, I wanted to create a really robust library of things that you might find or need in broadcast design. And I noticed that there was just an abundance of things that were perforated, whether it was like a tech panel or the front face of a badge or something like that. And it's really interesting when you start to blend opacity into these types of materials and displacement. You can almost start to create this illusion of more geometry than there actually is. So for instance, if you pop over to the catalog and you look at some of the perforated metals, specifically, there's one in particular that's sort of like an octagon mesh. So if you jump down, look for one that is maybe, perfect. So if you go to the, I don't know if you can there we go. So that's a material, that's not geometry. So the use of the really creative use of opacity maps and displacement can really give you this illusion of like, oh, is that like actually like an extruded shape with a beveled edge? No, it's actually a material, which is really cool because now you can get really complicated looking stuff that would take a really long time to, like, let's say you were gonna, for instance, Slava's kind of using it more like a 2D texture in the shot that you have up right now.
Yeah,
But
it
you,
gives it that same effect. They didn't have to build this out of geometry. This was just a flat material that's layered on top of the white plastic here.
exactly. So like if you weren't going to use it like as a flat texture like he has on there, and you wanted it to look like it's actually geometry, this is another great one too. This like perforated slats. So that is a material, so you don't have to worry about modeling that. So what's great is like if you have a logo that's like at least modeled with decent quads to get good displacement, it gives you this illusion of like really complicated shapes without having to do all of that work. Like that's
This
another
one
great.
actually has depth, like multiple types of depth here, which
Yeah.
is cool.
So it just like, it's just to give you a leg up and try different things and like maybe experiment. And these perforated tiles are great for like backgrounds, or maybe you want to use them as a floor. But they're really useful, and they're all built with displacement. So you kind of have to understand how displacement works in the renderer that you're using and set up your object appropriately. But yeah, they can really add a lot of like, yeah, if you tile that a bunch of times even, and you can just get this like almost like fake amount of complexity in your objects without having to do any of that heavy lifting. And the material does all the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. So I turned a little displacement on as well, and we could dive in deeper to any one of these, but I'll keep it more. Oh, I was gonna make a surface level joke, but I don't think that's a good joke. Yeah. Okay, so these you can see they come in black metal, gold, and metal. So you can just drag them on, and then you can tweak them as well. But these are all
there's
here.
a, yeah, so, and some of them are brushed and some of them are not, so you can kind of play around, and the patterns across the black, the gold, and the brushed are the same. So the idea is that if you like the way it looks but maybe you want to try a different finish, you can do that really easily.
Yeah, you can go change the color or do whatever you need. So these kind of pair really well with the embossed ones. So this obviously was featured a lot in the video. I'll definitely go find that as you're talking about them. But I think these embossed ones are kind of similar, right? They use displacement to kind of add geometry to objects that don't really have all that geometry, right? You don't have to model all these details. It's built into the material.
Exactly. So for like broadcast stuff, this comes in handy for, background plates or ground plates, or maybe even a component in the badge or your design that you're working on. And it really kind of, again, like adds that complexity that really helps. In fact, Slava, when he was working on this and I was kind of working with him on it, I was really keen because he was kind of the first person to use it in like a quote production. And I was like, so how are you finding it? Is everything kind of working? He's like, oh my God, I wish I would have had these like 3 weeks ago when I was doing a job. And this is exactly what I need to like get me going and get a start to things. And it was really fantastic to hear that, because obviously that's why we do this. We do this to hopefully help people do better work, get more stuff, try new things. And it was just great to like get a front row seat to him trying these things for the first time, and really like he was having fun. Like I could tell he was having fun.
Yeah, it's featured in this logo really well down here. There's also some of it behind this championship. Some of the kind of bevels here on this material is also part of it. And then up in the logo, which it might be the retro reflectors, but it also could be the. I think this is actually the displaced metals right here.
Oh yeah, it might be. I'm not. He may have used the black metal.
Yeah,
The knurled black metal, I'm guessing, which is a very similar sort of pattern as the retro reflectors.
What's cool, and we're going to talk about retro reflectors in a second too, which do a kind of a similar thing here. When you get close up on these and you rotate around them, you get all this sparkle and detail that you didn't have to model. It's just built into the texture. You had a metal HDRI. You add one of these displaced textures here, and you get something like this. Watch the light bounce around on that. That is so cool. And to model that would take a while and would take a lot of geometry and clones. You could figure it out and angle it and randomize it. But to have it on a material, you just drag it on and you get all these reflections basically for free, is so much easier. So huge use case for it for the motion design. Let me show you the close-up one again. Let's talk about retroreflectors too, because they have a similar use case. So here's an awesome scene where Slava kind of, I think, maybe blended between two different retroreflectors, or even animated. Do you know the process to do what they're doing there, where it's kind of moving around?
Yeah, I mean, you could do that with just a ramp that's animated, that's revealing the different materials through like a layered material. But we should ask him, because I'm not really sure if he did that or if he did it in comp. But that's how I would approach it. But we can definitely just ask Slava. He might even be in the chat. If he is, like, he should definitely chime in. But yeah, so the retroreflector materials was something that I wanted in day one into the broadcast stuff, because it's just everywhere in that world. Like if you just watch like CNN or something, they, or even like, actually, you know where I saw it the most was like, I think it was like NBC NFL on NBC or something, or maybe it was Fox NFL, but they use that like everywhere. It's like a pretty common like material in that sports graphics kind of world. And what it's actually like really fun to make, because it's not just that you're making the actual pattern that's displaced in the normal and the metallicness of it and all that, because you really need, most of the time when that stuff is made, it's like cast in plastic, right? So it's not, when you see a reflector like that, like imagine like your old bike reflector, you touch it and it's smooth, right? Because it's like that reflective property is like encapsulated in clear plastic. It's like the bottom layer of that clear plastic. So you have like, the metal part, and that's why it's like smooth. It almost looks like it's sitting under like a piece of clear plastic. So what's great about, materials having coat, and if those of you that don't know what coat is, basically it's an extra layer of specular highlight that you can put on materials. And so we're utilizing that. So we have the base layer of the metallic displaced retroreflector, the red, color and all that jazz. But then on top of that, we have that clear coat on top of it to make it look like it's actually volumetric, like it's sitting in a piece of plastic, which is kind of what you're looking at right there. So it just like adds that like little level of like realism and that cool factor really to it. And of course, like on these, you can actually open up the nodes and you can change that red to whatever color you want. Like you don't have to necessarily use the red. It's pretty easy to tweak that out. But yeah, they're just super fun, and they could be used in that broadcast look, or you could use them as like a car reflector. There's lots of different applications for them. That one's a really fun one. The one that you have
love
on
this
there.
one.
That one really reacts to light really interestingly, because I made sure that each one of those little chips is sort of rotated randomly, sort of through the normal. So when you rotate a light on it, it will actually kind of twinkle and like kind of blink, which is like really interesting to watch. Yeah, there you go.
I'm hoping it'll come across.
Rotate the light. I think that's really more. Yeah. So if you rotate the light, it'll. Yeah. So those will come in and out, and you'll get different vibes.
That's cool. Yeah, this one I love. It's got so many little details in it, and like you said, it's got the front coat, so you get the reflection of the light, but then you get all this like it's modeled under there, all the little detail and all the reflections. You just start bouncing around. That might be a little close here.
For that one, I would tile that one probably quite a bit, because
just make it more.
Yeah, because those are supposed to be like almost like specks, if you think about it. Yeah, like that is like. So now if you get a little bit closer, it's gonna feel a little bit more like mysterious and a little bit more techy, because it's like you're not really sure what those little lights are.
Yeah, that's cool. I love this one. All right, I'm gonna drag one more in and we'll move on. Okay, so retroreflectors, check them out. There's 10 of them here. You change the color, and they're great for this stuff. Again, this type of work, is all about reflections, and that's what these kind of materials really encapsulate, like how reflections can be used differently to help add contrast and detail, so you can get close-ups and all this stuff. So, all right, I'm gonna go back to this one. I love it. All right,
Yeah.
so
Yep.
sorry, we'll move on.
It's all good.
Add any questions? Let's see here. Keep your questions coming. Deirdre, thank you for the links in here. Here's a good question from Mike. Or I keep saying Mike. It says MKE. Sorry about that, Mike. Or not Mike. It says best way to get the retro reflectors to look internally lit. So that's probably the question. Is there a way to make them look like a brake light? Oh, that's interesting. Like they have a similar quality to like a tail light with all the little bent around stuff. Is there something to kind of get that kind of look with these?
Yeah, in fact, like well, maybe not on the object that you have right now, but if you made like a conical or cone like object, kind of like a parabola that you would see in like a taillight or something, right?
Yep.
And you put that material on it, then if you just took even just like a point light and put it right in the center of it, that's exactly what it'll do. It'll reflect that light back out towards camera, it in a sort of retro reflective way.
Oh, I was thinking about that. Okay, retro is like back, right? It's like back in time, retro. And and I think this is true. Like these things are designed, I think it's partly that paint they use on like road signs is also retro reflective.
Yeah,
so it's like
sort of like that.
it's
Yeah,
designed to light back at you no matter what the angle is or something. I think that is similar. My science is off. I'm not Wikipedia. Okay. But I think that's a cool idea. Like just put a light source, use it like a lens, and then project the light source into the lens, and then all those little things will dance off of it and come back to you. That's probably that's probably a good way to think about that.
Or if you want to get like if you want to get advanced with it, if you're comfortable with doing this, like I would maybe take the normal map out of one of these and put it on red glass, and then you could essentially start to take it apart a little bit and see through it, and maybe throw a light behind that if you wanted to, or maybe even a self-illuminated texture or something. But yeah, there's like a million ways that you could kind of get there.
Awesome. All right, let's move on the video. All right, we talked about that. We talked about retro reflectors. Let's talk briefly about some of the models. We launched so much stuff that we potentially glossed over these models, but I've been using them lately. I know a lot of our customers have been using these in jobs already. We've even had a couple questions about the Jumbotron thing I'm going to ask you right now. But tell me about the models. How do you guys think about what models to include in a collection like this called, broadcast design models?
Yeah, Nick V on the team designed these, and he did a fantastic job. And he and I just kind of had some broad stroke ideas on what these could be. And it's kind of tricky because you're trying to make something that looks good but is usable in most situations, or maybe not too specific but cool looking enough where you want to use it but not so specific that it doesn't fit into your project. So it was really kind of like a challenge to kind of land on something that was going to work most of the time. But I think you'll find that like they're really versatile, and they're all like beautifully Nick did an amazing job modeling these all like with quads. Like every single thing is like quads and ready for displacement or ready for subdivision surface, and you can bend them, and if you want to create like a little bit of a bow to it, they're very malleable that way. And then of course, like we have some of my favorite stuff, which are the patterns, which you can throw into a cloner, and they tile. The geometry actually tiles. So if you throw that into a cloner and you get the dimensions of your cloner just right, you can make that tile indefinitely, and it can create this really cool background, or maybe it's a floor, or maybe it's just some element that you want to throw into your scene. But yeah, they're super fun, and like I love the one that you're on right now. Like this is one of my favorite ones actually. They're like, yeah, look at that. Like it just looks so cool. Yeah, and then if you threw that into a Connect or whatever you want to do, but like it's just there's a lot that we just had. We dropped so much stuff, dude, that I feel like we didn't even have like a way to like really get into it about all of it. That's why like I really want to see people. I can't wait to see what other people do with this stuff, because honestly, it's like there's so much here that it's going to be wild to see what people make. But yeah, these are great if you want to create really interesting patterns or backgrounds, and it's
I love
just like
this one.
yeah, that one is like super fun, especially if you like take one of like even if you just threw like a simple metal on that, like even from like EMC days or something. It's yeah, there you go. Like you can imagine um that as a background to, you know, some opening show open or whatever. But yeah, super fun.
Love it. So literally we got like 6 of them in, and then I got distracted. But there's also the Jumbotron, which somebody was mentioning. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to zoom out because this thing's like life-size scale. It's like I'm going to literally put a football field down, and this is all included here in the collection. And now we got our football field, we got our Jumbotron. Let's grab a light. Let's just, let's make sure we're here for some scale. Get the lights in to show you how big everything is. And they were asking, is there a way to get the dimensions of these Jumbotrons so that they can design for them? Actually, they want to like put stuff in here. Does maybe Nick's in here can answer, get the dimensions of some of these screens, so, and even the wraparound maybe, so that people can design for them, because they actually want to show stuff on them, which is cool.
Yeah, definitely. If Nick's in the chat, he can give you the aspect ratio for that, or you could just jump into the UVs and like screenshot the UVs and, you know, do it the quick and dirty way if you wanted to. It's, you know, it's kind of up to you. But yeah, so that these are all kind of built. We take a lot of time trying to imagine how we would want to use these items. So it's really kind of like it's something that we think about a lot. So in terms of the assets that he's got going on right now, those are to real world scale. So those are going to fit if you find a stadium model somewhere, or you're trying to like get really into the nitty gritty of the scene. Then you're going to work. These are going to work perfect for that. But a lot of these like more I will call them like design elements, the badges and whatnot, are done more to like almost like a FUI scale. So a scale that's going to make sense as if you were looking at it on TV in cinema. So those aren't going to be like the size of a football field. So everything is considered, and we try to consider these things and try to find the most optimal use case before we decide on how big something is or how something is broken down. But yeah, we're and like I said, we're pretty new to models, so we're still kind of like honing our pipeline for that, and we hope to just like continue to bring more and more great models. But Nick V, not the Nick you're looking at right now.
I can't model, guys.
He's like a ridiculously meticulous modeler, and he makes sure that everything is just like tip top, gonna subdivide properly. So it's you're in good hands. He's gonna be doing some really great stuff in Plus in the next few releases.
Yeah, there's some cool ones here. Okay, so speaking of FUI, these also came out. So you have FUI models. You talk a little bit about these?
Yeah, so this is more like I think of these as like a little bit of an experiment, because we've never really done anything in this type of world before. And so it's a little bit like I'm curious to see how people will react to them, and I think they're really useful if in that like futuristic user interface kind of world. If you're making like a heads up display or something like that, these are really great way to like bash out those concepts. And what's really interesting and unique about them is they all have thickness, so they're not just like planes. So if you needed to maybe extrude them and make them thicker, or maybe you need to twist them or subdivide them and make them do something weird, you could do that. But the idea behind these models is to be able to kind of bash out those looks really quickly and pair them with something like Signal to make that little dial that you have like spin around and like do interesting things. And it's just really an experiment for us to see if people want more of this type of thing. And I'm excited to see what people make, because obviously this stuff is like begging to be animated, and Signal is such a great like pairing for this type of thing. Yeah, right there. Like how many seconds did that take? Like,
and done.
Yeah, so like you can kind of see
to client.
Yeah, you could like start to play around and really like get crazy with it. And I mean, one thing that I was doing with these was like I just made like a self-illuminated like material, uh and I just like crank the glow on Redshift and was like getting like an interesting like screen graphic look. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, so you can do a little. Well, I'll spare you the live version, because we should do this in a something in the future. But essentially, go to your emission, start to crank it, and then turn on your Redshift glow and get that kind of look. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Like crank that color and just like, start to bash out these things. There's even like a keyboard too, which is kind of rad. Like, I don't know if you saw that at the bottom. But there's a fully modeled keyboard. There's a number pad, I believe, and I think there's also these same types of patterns that you can throw into a cloner and they will tile perfectly. So there's like these grids that you can use, and you can, like it's a great way to like start to concept out something and really kind of like play around to see what you want.
Okay, so same thing here. You could clone this and get patterns, all these different ones here. I like that one. Okay, cool. Yeah, so let us know too if you're using these, and we always love seeing where these things end up. Let us know. All right, we got all right, we got some questions. Love the models. Thanks, Chad. It was Mike. Okay, either I knew that or I just had a lucky guess. Thank you, MKE. This is great. Let me see here. Double-sided. Hey guys, you're awesome. Thank you. In this scene, I just used it's Slava's here. Okay, thank you, Slava. Thank you so much for working with us. We love this scene. He says, in this scene, so he's talking about the retro, this scene, I'm assuming. He's talking about
that's the one we asked him about. Yeah.
How he animated this. He says, I'll just put it on the screen. You're awesome. Thank you. In the scene, I used a cloner with double-sided hexagons that are flipped and separately calculated mask for compositing with the letters. So it had the retroreflectors on it, and then he put it on cloners and just flipped them. That's what I'm reading.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Yeah, that's way cooler than what I said.
And easier, just to rotate some clones. So thank you for that. And thank you for creating this. We love seeing how our stuff's being used in such cool renders. All right, let's move on the video. We got to FUI. We got okay. We talked a little bit about the nighttime HDRIs. We talked about the perforated metals and plastics. And you mentioned a little bit, this also shows off a lot more of the models, like the lights and the backgrounds and the patterns are in this scene. So if you want to check out this scene here, let me try to pause it. Come on. All right. Cooperate, YouTube. Right here, you can see a lot of the patterns on the walls, and even in here, like in the motion design logo, there's lights, there's patterns. This scene really shows off a lot of the different ways to use all this new stuff. So if you do broadcast design, check it out. Make sure you download the latest stuff and start playing with these things. All right, let's see. I'm sure there's probably something missing. We talked about new HDRIs using the metals, which it shows off here. And I think that might be most of the broadcast design collection. So it's running late as always, because we love talking about this stuff. We love answering your questions. Let's skip past my face. Talk about sustainable materials. So along with, gosh, I think over 400 of the new assets were from the broadcast collection. We also have over 100 sustainable materials which is a really cool idea for a collection. Obviously, what we do here is fake. We're not no actual plastics were made to render these things. However, the world is made of so many different types of materials. So if you just think of the broad types of materials, metal, wood, plastic, there's so many subversions of all of this that a lot of material collections really don't think about. They have a plastic. They may have 4 plastics. But if we look around the world, whether we like it or not, the world is made up of thousands of different types of materials, of plastics and wood and metals. So when it comes to our collections, and I know the way that Chad and his team look at this is looking at the actual materials that people are using in the real world to make products and recreating them and capturing them at the highest quality so that you could use them in your scene. So I know you and your team have been seeing this sustainable material revolution that's happening in actual products. And I'll let you speak to it, but it seems like you wanted to bring this to Plus. So tell me a little bit about sustainable materials. What was the start of it, and how did you guys come up with these collections in particular?
Well, we kind of saw that, like, first of all, sustainable materials are becoming more and more popular in manufacturing and architecture and interior design. Like, sustainable companies want to create more with sustainable materials. So it's really important for brands, whether or not you're showing a product that was made out of purely recycled materials, or maybe you're making a brand film that wants to feel like, oh, we're thinking about the environment, we're thinking about sustainability. And it might not even be a company that makes beds or something, but they want the elements in their animation to have that vibe of like, oh, this looks like it was done with sustainable materials. It has like that vibe to it. So we wanted to make sure that we were getting interesting materials, as well as things that we're seeing in all these different places, popping up, whether it's in a brand film or in architecture or interior design. So our team, in fact, me and our awesome designer Logan, really kind of like put our heads together in terms of like how we wanted to approach these different types of materials. And we kind of came up with some, okay, we want some recycled plastics, recycled rubbers, recycled things. And then I just kind of let Logan loose. And she went and found all of these amazing companies doing really cool things with recycled rubber, recycled plastic, even recycled clothing. And we just like fell in love with these surfaces. We were like, oh my God, these look great. And some rebonded foam was also something that I've always wanted. They're not only really cool to look at, but they're also really cool to like have in your hand in real life, because they just all look really cool. But they're also like have a cool story behind them, which was really another added bonus. These are some of the craft soaps, which are completely handmade and organic. Not that like this is all silly because this is all done in computers. But if you're working on a brand film for a company that takes sustainability seriously, then it's great to be able to have these types of materials in your scene and be able to, let's say you're pitching that job. You're like, hey, yeah, you know what? Like, we think not only would we want this brand film to like feel like that your company cares about sustainability, but we're actually going to use recycled plastic materials and recycled cork materials. And that's just going to be like, they're going to be like, wow, this person really cares about this, and hopefully give you the job. But also from a sort of like aesthetic point of view, they're really interesting. They're really beautiful and organic and interesting. So, if you're going for that like man versus machine or that tendril kind of vibe, these materials can help get you there a little bit faster. My favorites are the corks. I think the corks are like freaking beautiful. In fact, we still have a lot of them here in the studio. And the recycled plastic, honestly, like one of the tiles I have on my desk right now is like a trivet. But yeah, they're super beautiful. So we sourced all of these, and Logan did a great job finding all these different artisan people that make this stuff. got it into the studio and ran it through our capture process and, delivered it to all of our members.
I love these corks. Let me see. I like this dark one too.
Yeah, and all of the plastics, anything that has subsurface in the material. So there's no, like I think you saw earlier, Nick put one of the craft soaps on the shader ball, and it actually like it looks. The physical properties are like soap. So the lengths to which we go to make sure these things are accurate is pretty intense. So Jake, who's in charge of the tactile kind of capture process, he will measure with a micrometer how deep light is actually penetrating into these types of surfaces. And then we meticulously set these materials up to reflect those measurements. So a lot of the surfaces that you see, we try to curate and make them as realistic as we possibly can.
Yeah, they also have displacement ready to go, and like Chad said, subsurface. So you could open up any of these and see all the detail that goes into this. But they obviously take this really seriously on recreating what is how the actual object is, because that we know that that's a lot of what you guys are doing out there. Is your customers and your clients are asking to recreate the real world, sometimes before it exists, like in a product render or in previs, or like we're also seeing, like Chad mentioned, companies who just want to be next to renders that look sustainable and have that feeling no matter what they sell. Like you said, maybe they just sell a mattress, but they want things to feel like modern materials. And a lot of these are here so you could use them in abstract ways and then in actual concrete ways. These soaps are a great example.
Yeah, if you check out the recycled fabrics, or I think it's recycled clothing, the blue one is actually made from ground up donated blue jeans. So they grind up blue jeans that are discarded and they press them down into like a really, really like flat surface, and then they're treated with, I don't know if it's like it's some sort of like organic like epoxy thing that hardens it up, and you can use these. This is like typically used in like an interesting wall cover, or to maybe put on top of a table or something like that. But it's for me, I just think it's really interesting as on an abstract shape, like a doodad or something, and doing something creative with it that way. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, they were asking how we made them. It sounds like we answered that question, but yeah, these are captured. Many of these are captured from real surfaces. So we should probably talk more about that process in the future. But it starts with the idea. Well, I'll let Chad talk a little bit about it. There's a whole team involved in bringing these ideas to you guys. And it really does start with bringing the best stuff from all over the world to Chad's studio. But Chad, maybe you could break down a little bit about some of that process and kind of how you recreate the real world in 3D here.
I mean, that's a whole other stream to really
we should
dive into that one, but
we should just do that. If you're here watching, first of all, thank you. Second of all, we want to do more of those deep dives into different collections because there's so much. We're about to talk about leather, which has a lot of this thinking behind it. And it all comes down to trying to understand what you guys want and what your clients are wanting and bring it to you. But there's so much more than that. So yeah, sorry, I cut you off, Chad. Why don't you give them a high level version, and then we'll maybe schedule a stream in the future or make a video diving deeper into that, because it's you guys go through so much to get all this done.
I mean, we are very meticulous about how we approach all these types of materials and stuff, but specifically with the tactile stuff, it generally starts with a concept that I might have, and then we blow that out and we work on that concept and we start to figure out what this could shape into. And then Logan will take that initial concept and start to figure out where we're going to get this stuff and how we're going to get it, and maybe the colorways and all that. Then everything gets shipped to here in the studio, which then it goes through our capture process, which is a whole like PBR scan process. Then it goes into really fine tuning and manipulating those assets into something that is usable by the customer. So it goes through our pipeline, some proprietary tools, some proprietary plugins, all to get it out to our members in the most accurate and beautiful way possible. So it's highly curated and extremely high quality.
So I'm just clicking through the rebonded foam, recycled clothing, recycled plastic, and recycled rubber. And then up here, we look through the cork. There's so much stuff now, I'm going to miss it. Okay, we went through the cork, craft soap. Let's talk about crater foam. So these are really unique. What's the story behind this? Like, what the heck is crater foam? Is that a real thing? Is that a man-made? Like, tell me what you know about crater foam, because they look so cool.
Crater foam's been on my to-do list since I saw it on a shoe, and I think it was a Nike shoe. And shoe companies are really big on using sustainable materials because obviously they produce a lot of shoes. So a lot of these shoe companies are using this crater foam now for soles, which is basically made up of ground up, chipped up, recycled rubbers, recycled other previous soles, and discarded pieces of those materials. And so I was like, man, like I see that in all these shoe renders. I see it even bleeding out outside of shoe renders and into other things being used in like product design and just like abstract stuff. So I really wanted to make a set of those. And I kind of inadvertently, like, we made those, and then I was like, wow, we also did leather, and we also have this, and we also have paracord. And I sort of realized that we're like, oh my God, we have like the perfect like shoe asset collection now. Like we have like every facet of like shoe renders. So if you're doing shoe renders, we have you covered. We have tons of stuff now with the suedes and the leathers, the rebonded foams, the plastics, even the paracord for the shoelaces. We've got all of that stuff, even some of our fabrics. So like, yeah, so these are great for like shoe renders, but they could be used for just about anything really that you wanted to get that like interesting, bubbly, rubbery kind of vibe with chips of like interesting colors inside.
Yeah, so I had to pause on the red one because obviously. So we got this is the new stuff. This is some of our plastics, the paracord. You're right. We got like the shoe collection that we accidentally launched.
Yeah.
All in separate pieces, but now it's all here. Which is the point. The point of Plus is not to have just one thing. It's how they all combine together to create something like this. So tell me about the shoe render, by the way. It's beautiful. I think you made it. So can you fill me in a little bit about some of the process? Because I love these shoe renders.
Yeah, I mean, shoes are fun to do for sure. I mean, the model, I think I don't remember where I got it from. I'll have to look. It might have been Turbo Squid. It might have been somewhere else. But yeah, I think it was just kind of like last minute, like, oh, I need to think of something to do for the craft foam. And I had used a different shoe model while I was making craft foam. So it was like fresh in my mind, and I knew the shoe that I was using wasn't going to be perfect. So I found a new one. But yeah, it's just, I believe I used Arnold for this one because I think Arnold subsurface just looks better to me than Redshifts. And it's just, a typical studio shot. I think I used area light maps and about 3 area lights. And yeah, all the materials are in Plus, and it came together like pretty easy. And it was kind of shocking. Like the material, if you set up the displacement correctly, it just kind of like works. So you don't really have to like try that hard. And of course, like I've lit plenty of shoe shots before, so I kind of knew what I wanted.
Yeah, these are fun. If you haven't played with these, definitely. And if you have the scene file, something to kind of a reminder is it comes with displacement turned on, ready to go. Obviously, Octane just you just drag it on, and Octane just displaces. If you're using Redshift, just turn on these displacement tags. I literally just came in here and turned on override, and the displacement's all set up. The only thing you might want to do is turn up or down your displacement scale, depending on how big your model is. But that's it. Yeah, with all that, you get all of this texture ready to go. So if you haven't played with these, they're super fun, and all the details just built right in. So let me just drag in a white one too. All right, let's go through. Let me make sure we got to all of them. All right, so I think we need to talk about two that don't quite fit either category, which is leather and suede, which I also think is new. Let me see if I could get a suede example here. Got some more sustainable materials, and there's our suede. Okay, so can you talk a little bit about leather and suede, Chad?
Yeah, so we sourced some of the best leather you can find out there, and for like 3 or 4 weeks straight, the studio smelled so good. It was like every day I walked in, I was like, "Oh man, that smells good." But yeah, we actually sourced real leather, real high end leather. Both, yeah, I mean, like that's the thing that I think we got to like push is that like these are not procedurally made. These weren't made with, substance designer. These are actual leathers that we sourced and had brought in, both full grain and top grain, which basically are, the two most, common forms of leather, and where the full grain is like, a little bit more of like going to give you that like high end look, and the top grain is really, have the outermost layer of skin is removed. I won't get into the gross details, but it generally has a little bit more blemishes, a little bit more wrinkles and whatnot. And we really we take this seriously. So not only do we source these hides, but we also make sure that the colorways are trendy, and like people, these are colorways that you would find out in both in interior design as well as in fashion. So these are colors that have been handpicked, basically to represent these different types of aesthetics. So yeah, each one has interesting characteristics. Some of them are like more of a fine grain where you don't really see a lot of the little, skin bumps. And then some of them are larger and have a little bit more of that, like, oh, I can tell this is actually a hide. So you have a lot of variation there. And the suede is really great because not only is the suede also captured and sourced the exact same way, and really we found a lot of great suedes, but we've sort of like pushed the suede a little bit so that they work really, really well, both from a distance and close up. So we try to hit that middle ground of something that looks good on a couch, but you could also put it on a shoe. And that was really important to us, that we make sure that it kind of works both ways. In fact, if you look at the catalog, Jake did a really great render of a leather couch, which a suede couch, which I don't know anybody that would be crazy enough to own a suede couch. I know I couldn't with kids, but it is super awesome. So yeah, if you go into suede, it's going to be under materials. There you go. Twirl down.
Oh, sorry. There we go.
Yeah. So
suede.
Yeah. So
I haven't seen this. That's cute.
Yeah. So it just works really well in furniture, a purse, a leather wallet, or whatever. We have you covered. Like, we killed that category. I feel like we've got leather on lockdown. So yeah, we'll highly recommend checking those out.
Yeah, so if you haven't checked this out, I know I mentioned it earlier, but if you join us late, head to 3dassets.greyscalegorilla.com. And if you don't remember that, just go to our website. It's at the top. It says Browse Assets, I think. And if you're either a Plus member and you're like, what stuff do I download? And how do I kind of decide and get a preview before I click download? Go here, check it all out. And if you're not a Plus member, it's a great way to just see all the stuff over the years that we've added, and some examples and how to use them. So here's the retro reflectors, recycled rubber, recycled plastic, recycled clothing, rebonded foam. This is polystyrene. This is from earlier this year, perforated metal, and all of this stuff. So some of these are from previous collections. Let me skip through to leather. Love it. Let's go up to embossed plastic. So you can see an example. Of course, you could scroll down and click on any of these and get a preview and really see all the detail rendered out. And if you even want a closer preview, you can click over and see all this. So we really wanted to make it easy for everybody to see what's in Plus, which is one of the most common questions we get, like what's all included now. And the easy answer is everything, but what is it? What specifically am I getting here? Go here, check it out. You can check out materials, and you can go into everything. So models, the bokeh, surface imperfections, HDRI, it's all here. And if you want to search for something and see if we have it, you could search as well. So here's some of the corks, which look great close up. So all right, as we go into almost hour 2, we should start to wrap up. Thank you all for joining us for so long. And thank you for bringing all of your questions. We're going to do a lightning round of questions. I want to make sure we got to everything on the video and that we didn't miss anything. Oh my goodness, we almost did it. And I'm so glad I checked the video, because this is one of my favorite parts of this quarter and some quarters to come, which is we have partnered with our good friends at Happy Toolbox to bring you some of their amazing models. So let me go full screen and let me see how much stuff we have here. And I'm going to open this up in Cinema just real quick to show you guys. If you're not familiar with Happy Toolbox, I'm going to give you my kind of like pitch for them, because I love the way that they think. And Chad, I want to get your thoughts too. Let me find a better frame here. Happy Toolbox have been making fun, consistently designed models for quite a few years now. And if you're old school Greyscalegorilla Plus member, and you remember this, we actually have a free collection of a few of our favorites from their library. They have hundreds of models, and we're so excited to bring some of our favorites into Greyscalegorilla Plus. So we started with the icons models and the building blocks models. The icons models you can see here. I'm going to go into more detail, but I want to tell you kind of the general way to think about Happy Toolbox. When you need consistently designed models that go together almost like a play set of toys, like a whole world that exists, that go together at the right scale, that you can put all in the same scene and build a world very quickly using well designed, well geometrized, I'm gonna make up words now, well modeled models. Happy Toolbox comes to mind for that stuff. So I'm gonna dig deeper, but Chad, I know you've been using and know Happy Toolbox for years now. What are your thoughts? How do you talk about Happy Toolbox?
I mean, you said it perfectly, I think, just like super like well thought out, art directed, stylized, but not so much stylized that you can't really use them. And they all work together, which is, like you said, like amazing. So the fact that like we have these in there, I'm super excited about it. And we've got all the best materials for those. So like I pair these up with colorful plastics, with pattern plastics, with even metals and stuff like that. So we've got you covered with like, they just work, you know what I mean? Like they just like, they're all quads. They all are like sub-D ready. You can really have a lot of fun with them. And they're just like instant world builders. So like you need to like do this type of style for your client, and you need to bash it out real quick. This is exactly what you want. They're all fully UV'd. So they're just gonna work right out the gate. Yeah, like here, toss one of the colorful plastics on there.
Oh yeah. Those look great.
Grab the my favorite orange one. I think it's that one. Yep, that's the one. Like, come on.
Ooh,
like,
baby.
Look at that. Like it has like this like little waxy little toy kind of vibe, which I just absolutely love.
Look how cute that is.
Yeah.
I gotta refocus. These are a little teeny, so I gotta make sure I focus. Because they're built to real like almost like a toy set. Some of them are these icons are a little small. But they work really well with the materials because the subsurface really shows off. Now they're kind of lower poly to make sure that you can clone these like almost infinitely, like they're not heavy on your machine. And then of course you could add geometry either through Redshift or just throw it in a subdivision surface real quick. But you get these results really, really quickly with these icons. So let me grab another one.
Ooh, that
one of my
looks,
favorites.
that looks good.
That looks dope. So let me grab the hands. The hands are really fun. And I'll just turn this one off, pull that material on the hand, and refocus. Probably just pick a camera that's not as finicky with focus here. Has anyone else hit their dang emoji button on their Mac keyboard as much as I do? I don't know why. I gotta like turn that off.
I always laugh when I see you do that.
I do it all the time. I was like, it's like is that a grandpa thing to do? All right, so here we go. I love these hands, especially with these plastics where they have these little see-throughs and stuff like that. All the subsurface really shows off on these. That one's a little too bright. Let me move to this one. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, the yellow one looks cool.
Let me scale up just a bit. Oh, look at that, baby. So obviously these are the icons. What's really cool is they're all scaled appropriately. Like, so you can mix and match, put these in a grid. They look really cool. And then the building blocks are also here. So these kind of have like a classic wooden toy vibe to them. And again, they're scaled all together so that you can just double click on them and create a little world and a little city when you need it. So you have the cranes and the wood train pieces, and it all goes together. So you could even build your own stuff because you literally have the building blocks here, like the little pieces of wood ready to go. So yeah, like these building blocks. Let me move these over. Really fun. I'm just going to add wood to all this just because it's fun to see. What woods should I use?
Use like a maple veneer. So look for the veneers. You could just search veneer.
Yeah,
or maple.
so you could just so you could type in veneer if you don't know where it is in your material catalog here, and then maple. Let's see here, maple. I'll just type it in, maple. Let's try this one first. I'll just put it on the null and hope it propagates well, and it does. Look at that, beautiful. Like
zoom in.
How fast and easy all that is. It's pretty crazy. Look at all this detail.
Look at that. Done.
Put a floor on it. Let's call it a day. Done. Oh my gosh, that's so cute. All right, I gotta add a couple more building blocks.
All right, let's not get carried away.
Big Ben. We got one more. Let's go with the power plant. Get a little Homer Simpson vibes here. And I'm literally just gonna put it in the null, and we're done. Love it. So thank you to our friends at Happy Toolbox. If you haven't downloaded these, go get them. And we also have more Happy Toolbox collections planned. So stay tuned for that. Some of our other favorites are coming into the library very soon. So check it out. We got a question here. How are you able to click on the model and update in the viewport? I'm not sure what that question is exactly. Do you know this one? Can you go over how you were able to? Can you go over how you were able to click on the model and update in the viewport?
I mean,
so
maybe they don't know Cinema, or maybe they're not from. Maybe the Cinema's not their native program. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, let me just do one really slowly, just so you could see it. So if we want to add any one of these collections, and this goes for any of our models, you just double click it in the Greyscalegorilla Plus library. It'll automatically be added to your object menu. Then if it's selected, it should be auto selected so that you should be able to see these moving nulls here. You just grab it and move it where you want it. And I'm just moving my camera with the 1, 2, 3 keys. You could find a tutorial about that. I'm placing it where I want. And then I'm literally just dragging it under this null to make sure that it's a part of the wood material, since they all kind of have the same material here. And that's it. If I didn't answer your question, I apologize. I just tried to do that step by step so you can see that. And then, of course, if in case this is what you're asking, this update over here is just using Redshift. You could use Arnold or Octane. It works very similar. You essentially have your viewport running and your you're seeing this all in real time, or not quite real time, but it's rendering as fast as it can, all of these updates as we make the changes. So hopefully I answered it there. I tried to go through all of them, but let me know. Well, it looked like when you replaced it, it replaced the current model. No, I just, every time you add it, it'll just add it to the scene. That's all. So hopefully that helps. All right, we should wrap up. I almost missed one. So let's make sure, let's let the video play out. We didn't miss them. So over 500 materials and assets and models are now in your library. Thank you guys so much for asking questions and for watching a little behind the scenes on where all this stuff comes from, where the ideas behind it comes from, and why we make all this. We're making this stuff, and it's hard sometimes to keep up with all the new stuff. So we wanted to make these kind of videos to make sure you guys understand all the new stuff, where to find it, and how to use it, which I think is really what I get a lot out of in these videos, understanding some of the context and some of the use cases for some of these. So if you are a Plus member and you haven't downloaded these, go download them. A quick reminder, if you haven't seen this, is to go to 3dassets.greyscalegorilla.com. You can find it right on our homepage. Go to Greyscalegorilla, click on Browse Library, search for anything you're looking for, whether you're a Plus member or not, and get a preview of all of the over 4,000 assets. I meant to say this earlier, Chad. Over 4,000 assets are now in the Plus library. And I wanted to thank you, Chad, and your team for bringing all of this amazing stuff into Plus. I know that was a big number to think of just a couple years ago, and we really started ramping into creating these amazing assets. But congrats to you, man. What an amazing set of materials.
Thanks, buddy.
And thanks to all of you, whether you're a Plus member or just looking into it or new to Greyscalegorilla. Thank you guys for joining us in the live show. Let me jump to no screen share land. And I did want to show one more thing. Thank you to Slava for creating this amazing scene and render. So if you want to learn more about their work, head here. Slovov, I'm going to get this so wrong. SOLOVYOV.graphics. What a cool URL. Head there, check out Slava's work. Amazing artist, and they're absolutely killing this broadcast stuff and many other looks and great artists. So thank you so much to Slava. And let me get rid of the screen share, make sure we're on screen, and just do one more thank you. Thank you, Deirdre, for all of the links. Thank you, Nick V, for being here. Thank you, anybody on the Greyscalegorilla team, for helping and also getting this all set up. And finally, thanks to all of you who are members or thinking about becoming a member. We're doing all of this stuff for artists who do this for a living. So we love hearing your questions. We love seeing the compatibility stuff, what other tools you're using. And one final thing too, we love seeing how all of these assets are being used in real work. We know we have thousands of artists that have joined Plus that are doing amazing work with every brand that we've ever heard in our life are using 3D in their marketing, in their product launches. So if you've worked on something recently and you've used anything from Greyscalegorilla library that you're proud of, work that you want to show off, please tag it made with GSG, whether it's on Twitter, Instagram. Our team's always looking for these, and we want to celebrate great work using our tools. And if you want to show something off, please use that hashtag. It helps us find it. And you might be a part of, an upcoming Instagram reel, or even some interviews that we have planned where we want to do a deeper dive into how our customers are using all this stuff. So thank you so much, Deirdre, with the slam dunk here, with the quote I could put right on the screen. Share your work on Made with GSG. We love seeing it. And with 2 hours in, we'll wrap it up. Thank you, Chad.
Thank God I've used the bathroom.
Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for answering all the questions. And we will see you in another Greyscalegorilla live show really soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.